In the silence, in the waiting, in the longest of nights, I believe that your light will still shine. In the failures, in my despair, I will look for your peace, though this wilderness is all I see.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We've come to Friday, the end of our week. This week we thought about, I guess, some real life issues about following Jesus. We've been reminded that we are called to be a people who are patient. God will answer us and hear our calls for help. And in the meantime, we're to put our roots down deeper and grow stronger. And often it's in these difficult times that our faith does get stronger with God. We've reminded ourselves that every moment we're alive, we're living for God. And if we think of the world around us and what we do in that way, it can transform each moment, each task. Nothing is ordinary if we're seeking to give God glory in our lives every day, in whatever way He's placed us. We've challenged ourselves about our prayer life. If Jesus dedicated Himself to prayer, to getting away, finding space and immersing Himself in His Father and in the Spirit, well, then so should we. And we've reminded ourselves that we are completely known by God. What a place that's to be. That whilst God is above and beyond our comprehension, we should invest our lives in getting to know Him better. But actually, it's a great comfort for us to know that we are known perfectly and loved perfectly by God. But of course, the reality is that life can be tough, often is very tough. It is full of worry and stress, broken relationships and struggles in work life and family life, tough decisions to be made. And that isn't even thinking about what's going around us nationally and internationally at this time. Life can be very tough. But one of the great promises in Scripture that runs throughout Scripture is that there is a rest promised to God's people. There is a rest promised to God's people. We find this promise in the Psalms and in the prophets. All the way through Scripture, really. It's that shalom kind of well-being. It's a mysterious promise in Scripture, in that a place of rest and peace is possible, according to our stories and the promises there. A place of rest and peace is possible in all and every circumstance. In fact, the promised rest and peace is not dependent upon our circumstance. It's just dependent upon God. The God who knows us, the God who holds our future, promises His people rest and peace and shalom, goodness. We're going to read some words of Jesus from Matthew 11, 25 to 30. Matthew writes this: At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal Him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. It's an amazing invitation, isn't it? Come to me, says Jesus. I will give you rest, says Jesus. Tie yourself to me, says Jesus. Discover that life with me can be gentle and restful. If we look at the life of Jesus, if we just glimpse those 4 years of it that we've got recorded in our scriptures, we see that life was pretty stressful for him. During that time, he was wandering, he was homeless, relying upon the hospitality of strangers. There were big highs for him and big lows. There There was the stress of living in an occupied land with Roman occupiers, living with constant threats and verbal attacks, the threat of arrest and violence, constant highs and lows really in the life of Jesus. That constant threat of violence, verbal attacks, spiritual attacks, arrest, fears for his friends, struggles with his family, struggles with the followers, great demands on his time and energy. And yet, we see in it Jesus was someone who knew the promised rest of God, experienced the promised rest of God. Someone who even on the night when he was going to be arrested and he knew horrors were waiting for him, he was still able to rest in that moment, enjoy his friends around that table of the Last Supper. This rest promised by God is not just a good night's sleep. It's not the kind of rest we might get with a week on a beach. It's something altogether deeper, something almost of the promised, well, it is the promised future brought right down here into the present for us to experience. What a gift from God. And it is possible, even in the most stressful moments of our lives, to experience this peace. Like we said earlier, it's not dependent on circumstance. It's dependent on God. Well, I want us to pause for a moment. And as we pause, I want us to reflect back on our lives. Just think of some of those really tough moments we've had in our lives. Just think back, did we experience God's peace? Let's be still. Chances are that you have experienced that in your past. I know I can think of two moments, perhaps when I was in my most painful situations, when I just overwhelmingly knew the peace of God. And I knew it didn't make sense on a human level, but I knew it was the gift of God in those most stressful, difficult, painful moments. And I guess that gives me hope for the future as I face difficult times, knowing that that peace is possible, despite what circumstances I might face, we might face. So as we finish this week, let us pause and be still. Let's allow us in these moments to receive the peace and the promised rest of Jesus. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." May God bless us this day.
In the silence, in the waiting, in the longest of nights, I believe that your light will still shine. In the failures, in my despair, I will look for your peace, though this wilderness is all I see. Many questions feel unanswered. They are echoing round as I wander in circles of doubt. I am desperate to hear your voice. You speak hope into life. You are raising me up once again. Draw me close, hold me near. Speak your truth, drive out fear. Lift my eyes from this dust, change my view as I trust in you. Draw me close to you. and the tests I will take, 'cause you're sharpening me. I am yours, Lord, so lead me on to the lands you have promised, where all of my waiting is done. Draw me close, hold me near, speak your truth, drive out fear, lift my eyes from this dust, change my view as I trust. Draw me close, hold me near, speak your truth, drive out fear, lift my eyes from this dust, change my view as I trust. In the silence, in the waiting, in the longest of nights, I believe that your light will still shine.